Jade worked at the Golden Crown, a fancy restaurant where rich people ate. She was tired after working for 6 hours, but she kept smiling as she served the food. This job helped her pay for school where she was studying international business. "You need anything else?" she asked the men at table 14. The men didn't even look at her. They just waved her away. Jade was used to this. After 3 years working here, she knew that rich people often didn't really see her. They didn't see past her uniform or her skin color. But Jade didn't mind. She was here to work, save money, and finish school. As she walked back to the kitchen, she saw a new customer being seated in her area. Even from far away, Jade could tell he was important. Mr. Phillips, the restaurant manager, was showing him to the best table by the window. The man wore an expensive suit that probably cost more than all of Jade's school fees. The way he walked, and how other people looked at him, told Jade that he was someone powerful. "Table 16 is yours, Jade," Mr. Phillips whispered to her. "That's Carter Reynolds, the real estate developer. He's worth millions and wants to invest in this area." "Don't mess up," Jade nodded. She had heard of Reynolds' development. They were buying properties all over the city and turning them into expensive apartments that the original residents couldn't afford. But work was work, and tonight her job was to serve Mr. Reynolds. She went to his table with a professional smile. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Golden Crown. What would you like to drink?" Carter Reynolds looked at her with cold eyes. "Macallan 25, neat." "Great choice, sir. I'll be right back with that." As Jade turned to leave, her phone vibrated in her pocket. She usually never checked her phone during work, but she was waiting for an important call about her final school project. When she looked at the screen, she saw it was her study partner, Li Wei. Jade wasn't supposed to take calls while working, but she knew Li would only call if it was urgent. She quickly stepped behind a partition near the bar, just a few feet from Mr. Reynolds' table, and answered. "Wei, I'm at work. Is everything okay?" she said quietly. Li Wei started speaking quickly in Mandarin Chinese. He was worried about their presentation tomorrow because the professor had changed what they needed to do. "Don't worry," Jade replied fluently in Mandarin. "Our project is good. The professor just wants more market analysis. I'll handle it tomorrow morning." While she was talking, she noticed Mr. Reynolds had stopped looking at his menu and was staring at her with surprise. Jade quickly ended the call and went to get his drink. When she brought the Macallan to him, Reynolds was watching her with new interest. "You speak Mandarin?" he said. "Yes, sir. I've been studying for 4 years." "Interesting." He took a sip of his whiskey. "What else do you study?" "International business at City University. I finish next month." Something changed in his face, like he was surprised. "The language program there is very good. Your pronunciation is quite good." "Thank you, sir," Jade replied, surprised by the compliment. "Are you ready to order, or would you like more time?" "I'll have the Wagyu ribeye, medium rare." "Great choice, sir." During the evening, Jade noticed Reynolds watching her talk with other customers. He seemed very interested when she helped an older Chinese couple with the menu, speaking easily in both English and Mandarin to help them. As the night ended, Reynolds was the last customer in her area. When she brought his bill, he gave her his business card along with his credit card. "Your skills are being wasted here," he said. "My company is growing in Asian markets. We need people who understand both the language and business culture. Call my office tomorrow." Jade couldn't believe her luck as she processed his payment. This could be the chance she had been working toward for years. As Reynolds left, she saw Mr. Phillips watching from across the room with a strange look on his face. The next morning, Jade came in for her lunch shift, feeling hopeful for the first time in months. She planned to call Reynolds' office during her break. But as soon as she entered the restaurant, Mr. Phillips called her into his office. "Close the door," he said, his voice cold. Jade felt worried as she sat down. "Can you explain what happened with Mr. Reynolds last night?" he asked. "I'm sorry? Everything seemed fine. He left a big tip. You were seen taking a personal call while working and speaking in Chinese near his table. It was an emergency about my final project. I stepped away. And then you showed off your language skills all night. Phillips interrupted. Mr. Reynolds comes here for privacy, not to be impressed by waiters trying to network. That's not what happened, Jade said. He asked me about— Enough, Phillips stopped her. This isn't the first time you've broken rules, Jade. I have to let you go. Jade sat in shocked silence. You're firing me? For speaking Mandarin? For unprofessional behavior and for trying to get business from our customers. He pushed an envelope across the desk. Your final pay. Please, empty your locker. Jade's hands shook as she took the envelope. 3 years of good work, and now this? She knew the real reason. Phillips had seen Reynolds give her his card. He was afraid of losing a server who could help him impress rich customers like Reynolds. This isn't fair, she said quietly. Life rarely is, Phillips replied dismissively. That's all. Jade emptied her locker, feeling lost. How would she pay? Her rent? Her school payment was due next week. As she walked outside into the sunny day, her phone rang. A number she didn't know. Hello, Ms. Wilson? A professional woman's voice said. This is Emily Chen, Mr. Reynolds' assistant. He asked me to call you. He was very impressed with your language skills and business knowledge. Jade leaned against the wall, hardly believing what she was hearing. Thank you, she managed to say. Actually, I just became available for work right away. Excellent. Mr. Reynolds would like to meet with you today at 2 p.m. to talk about a job with our international development team. The starting pay is $85,000 plus benefits. Would that work for you? Jade looked back at the restaurant where she'd spent 3 years being invisible. Yes, she said, a smile growing on her face. That works perfectly for me. 2 months later, Jade sat in a meeting room in Shanghai translating contract terms for Reynolds Development's newest deal. Across the table, Carter Reynolds nodded approvingly as she handled the complex negotiation easily. During a break, Reynolds came up to her. I knew you were exactly what my company needed the moment I heard you speak Mandarin. Can I ask you something? Jade said. Did you call the restaurant after that night? My manager fired me the very next day. Reynolds shook his head. I didn't call, but I'm not surprised. Men like Phillips feel threatened when they realize the people they look down on have value beyond what they can see. He smiled slightly. Their loss is my gain. And yours too, I hope. Jade looked at the Shanghai skyline visible through the big windows, then down at her new business cards. Jade Wilson, International Business Development Manager. Definitely my gain, she agreed with a smile. Sometimes getting fired was the best thing that could happen to a person. 6 months had passed since Jade started working for Reynolds Development. Her life had changed completely. She now lived in a nice apartment in the city center. She had paid off all her student loans, and most importantly, she was using her education and skills every day. Today was a big day. Jade was leading her first major project. Reynolds Development wanted to build a new hotel in Beijing, and Jade was in charge of the deal. She had spent weeks preparing for this meeting. Jade checked herself in the mirror one last time. Her new suit was perfect, dark blue and professional. She looked like a successful businesswoman, not like someone who used to serve drinks to rich people. Jade smiled at the thought. You can do this, she said to herself. When Jade arrived at the office, everyone was busy. The Beijing investors were coming at 10 a.m. and this deal was worth millions. Morning, Jade, said Emily Chen, Reynolds' assistant. Mr. Reynolds wants to see you before the meeting. Jade nodded and walked to the big corner office. Carter Reynolds was looking out the window at the city below. You wanted to see me, sir? Jade asked. Reynolds turned around. Jade, are you ready? For today? Yes, sir. I've prepared everything. The presentation is ready, and I've studied all the details of the deal. Reynolds nodded. Good. But I want to warn you about something. Stephen Phillips will be at the meeting today. Jade felt her heart beat faster. Mr. Phillips, my old boss from the restaurant? Yes. He recently joined the investment group we're meeting with. He's a minor partner, but he'll be there. Jade tried to stay calm. I understand. It won't be a problem. Reynolds looked at her carefully. Are you sure? I can lead the meeting if you prefer. No, Jade said firmly. This is my project, I can handle it. Reynolds smiled. That's what I thought you'd say. Good luck. Jade went back to her office to review her notes one more time. She couldn't believe Phillips would be at the meeting. The man who fired her would now see her in her new position. Jade felt nervous but also a little pleased. This was her chance to show him how wrong he had been about her. At 10 a.m. sharp, Jade walked into the conference room. 5 Chinese businessmen were seated at the table, along with 2 American investors. And there he was, Stephen Phillips, sitting at the end of the table. He looked exactly the same, with his expensive watch and smug smile. When Phillips saw Jade enter the room, his eyes widened in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected to see her here, especially not leading the meeting. Good morning, gentlemen, Jade said confidently. I'm Jade Wilson, International Business Development Manager at Reynolds Development. Thank you for coming today. As Jade began her presentation, she could feel Phillips staring at her, but she ignored him and focused on the Chinese investors. She switched easily between English and Mandarin, explaining the details of the hotel project. The Chinese businessman looked impressed. As you can see from these projections, Jade continued, showing slides with financial data. This hotel will bring excellent returns within the first 3 years. One of the Chinese investors, Mr. Liu, asked a complicated question about tax implications. Without hesitation, Jade answered in perfect Mandarin, showing her deep understanding of both Chinese business culture and international finance. Throughout the presentation, Phillips kept shifting uncomfortably in his seat. When it was time for questions, he finally spoke up. This all sounds very impressive, he said with a fake smile. But aren't you being too optimistic about the construction timeline? Building in Beijing can be challenging. Jade smiled politely. She had prepared for this kind of question. That's a good point, Mr. Phillips. If you look at page 12 of your packet, you'll see that we've actually planned for potential delays. We've added 3 extra months to the timeline and 15% to the budget to account for any unexpected issues. Phillips looked surprised that she had such a good answer. The Chinese investors nodded approvingly. After 2 hours of discussion, Mr. Liu, the lead investor, stood up. We are very impressed with your presentation, Ms. Wilson. We would like to move forward with this project. Everyone in the room applauded. Jade had done it. She had secured a deal worth millions of dollars for Reynolds Development. As people began to leave the conference room, Phillips approached Jade. Ms. Wilson, he said, his voice stiff. That was quite a presentation. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, Jade replied calmly. I didn't realize you had such capabilities when you worked at the Golden Crown. Jade looked him straight in the eyes. I was the same person then as I am now. The only difference is that Mr. Reynolds saw my value while you only saw a waitress. Phillips's face turned red. Before he could respond, Carter Reynolds joined them. Ah, Stephen, Reynolds said. I see you've reacquainted yourself with Miss Wilson. She's one of our most valuable team members. Yes, Phillips said, forcing a smile. Very impressive. If you'll excuse me, Jade said, I need to discuss next steps with Mr. Liu. As she walked away, Jade could hear Reynolds saying to Phillips, You know, Stephen, Jade used to work at a restaurant. Can you believe someone let talent like that slip away? That evening, Reynolds held a small celebration for the successful deal. As champagne was poured, he called for everyone's attention. Today marks a major milestone for our company, he said. And it wouldn't have been possible without Jade Wilson. When I first met Jade, she was serving drinks at a restaurant, while studying international business. Now, 6 months later, she has secured one of our biggest deals ever. Everyone applauded, and Jade felt her cheeks grow warm. To recognize her incredible work, Reynolds continued, I'm pleased to announce that Jade is being promoted to Senior International Business Development Manager, effective immediately. The room erupted in applause. Jade couldn't believe it. A promotion already. Later, as the party was winding down, Jade found herself standing next to Reynolds by the window. Thank you for the promotion, she said. I wasn't expecting it so soon. Reynolds smiled. You earned it. And I have to admit, I rather enjoyed the look on Phillips's face today. Jade laughed. Me too. You know, Reynolds said thoughtfully, sometimes people can't see the value in others because they're too busy protecting their own position. Phillips couldn't see your potential because he was afraid of being outshined. Jade nodded. I'm just glad you saw something in me that night at the restaurant. I didn't just see potential, Reynolds said. I saw determination, and that's much more valuable than any degree or skill. As Jade looked out at the city lights, she thought about how much her life had changed in just 6 months. From being fired unfairly to leading million-dollar deals. From serving food to executives to being an executive herself. Sometimes the people who try to hold you back are the ones who end up pushing you forward to something better. 1 year had passed since Jade's promotion to Senior International Business Development Manager. Her rise at Reynolds Development had been rapid. She now had her own team of 5 people and had closed deals in China, Japan, and Singapore. Her life was busy but rewarding. But lately, Jade had been thinking about her hometown. The small neighborhood where she grew up was changing. Big companies were buying properties and forcing long-time residents to move. It was exactly what Reynolds Development had done in many areas, buying old buildings, tearing them down, and building expensive apartments that the original residents couldn't afford. One evening, Jade was working late in her office when Carter, Reynolds, stopped by. Still here? He asked, leaning against her doorway. Jade looked up from her computer. Just finishing the Singapore hotel report. It can wait until tomorrow, Reynolds said. You work too hard. Jade smiled. That's why I'm good at my job. Reynolds nodded and sat down across from her. I have a new project I want you to lead. It's important. What kind of project? Jade asked. We're expanding into a new area, the Pine Grove neighborhood. Jade froze. Pine Grove was her old neighborhood, where her mother still lived. Pine Grove? She repeated, trying to keep her voice steady. Yes, it's an older area, but the location is perfect. Close to downtown, good transportation. We can build luxury condos there and make a fortune. Jade's mind was racing. She knew what this meant. People who had lived in Pine Grove for generations would be forced to leave. Small businesses would close. The community would be destroyed. Is something wrong? Reynolds asked, noticing her expression. No, Jade lied. I'm just surprised. Pine Grove is where I grew up. My mother still lives there. Reynolds raised his eyebrows. Really? Well, that's perfect then. You know the area. You can help us navigate the community. Jade nodded, but inside she felt sick. How could she help destroy her own neighborhood? The project starts next week. Reynolds continued. We'll begin buying properties. I want you to lead the negotiations. After Reynolds left, Jade sat in her office for a long time. She had worked hard to get where she was. She had a good salary, a nice apartment, and respect. But was it worth it if she had to hurt her own community? That weekend, Jade visited her mother in Pine Grove. The small house where she grew up looked the same as always. The garden was full of flowers, and the porch swing still creaked. Mom, I need to talk to you about something, Jade said as they sat drinking tea. Her mother listened quietly as Jade explained about Reynolds Development's plans for Pine Grove. So they want to buy everyone's homes? Her mother asked. Yes. They'll offer money, but it won't be enough to buy a new home in a good area. Most people will have to move far away. Her mother sighed. Mrs. Johnson next door has lived here for 50 years, and Mr. Chen's grocery store has been here since before you were born. Where will they go? Jade didn't have an answer. She felt trapped between her successful career and her loyalty to her community. What are you going to do? Her mother asked. I don't know, Jade admitted. The next day at work, Jade asked for a meeting with Reynolds. She had been thinking all night and she had made a decision. I can't lead the Pine Grove project, she told him. Reynolds looked surprised. Why not? It's a great opportunity. These are my people, Jade explained. I can't be part of forcing them out of their homes. Reynolds leaned back in his chair. Business is business, Jade. If we don't develop that area, someone else will. Maybe, Jade said, but I don't have to be part of it. Reynolds studied her for a moment. Are you willing to risk your career over this? Jade took a deep breath. Yes. To her surprise, Reynolds smiled slightly. Interesting. Tell me, if you were in my position, what would you do differently? Jade hesitated, then decided to be honest. I'd create a development that works with the community, not against it. Keep the existing businesses, renovate buildings instead of tearing them down, and make sure current residents can afford to stay. That sounds expensive and complicated, Reynolds said. It would be, Jade agreed. But it would also be the right thing to do. And it could be good business too. People would support a company that helps communities instead of destroying them. Reynolds didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Make me a proposal. What? Jade asked, surprised. A business proposal. Show me how we can develop Pine Grove without displacing the community. If it makes financial sense, maybe we'll try it your way. Jade couldn't believe it. Really? Really, Reynolds said. You've earned the right to be heard, Jade. Now convince me. For the next 2 weeks, Jade worked harder than she ever had before. She studied community development models from around the world. She met with urban planners and affordable housing experts. She talked to Pine Grove residents about what they needed and wanted. Finally, she was ready. Her presentation to Reynolds and the board of directors was scheduled for Monday morning. The night before, Jade was so nervous she couldn't sleep. This wasn't just about her career anymore. It was about her community, her mother, her neighbors. It was about doing what was right even when it was difficult. When Jade walked into the boardroom on Monday, she was surprised to see not only Reynolds and the board members but also several Pine Grove residents, including her mother. I invited them, Reynolds explained. If we're going to talk about their community, they should be part of the conversation. Jade smiled gratefully and began her presentation. She explained her vision for a new kind of development, one that preserved the character and community of Pine Grove while still making a profit for Reynolds' development. Instead of tearing down buildings, we renovate them, she explained. Instead of forcing out small businesses, we give them better spaces at the same rent. Instead of luxury condos only the wealthy can afford, we create mixed-income housing. Jade showed financial projections, design plans, and testimonials from other cities where similar approaches had worked. This won't make as much money up front as our usual developments, she admitted, but it will create long-term value, positive publicity, and community goodwill. It's not just the right thing to do, it's smart business. When she finished, the room was quiet. Jade held her breath, waiting for Reynolds' reaction. After what seemed like forever, he stood up. This is not how we usually do business, he said slowly. It's more complicated, more challenging, and yes, less immediately profitable. Jade's heart sank. But, Reynolds continued, it's also more innovative, more sustainable, and potentially more valuable in the long run. He turned to Jade. Congratulations. Your Pine Grove community development proposal is approved. The room erupted in applause. Jade's mother had tears in her eyes. Later, Reynolds pulled Jade aside. You took a big risk standing up to me. Jade nodded. It was worth it. You know why I hired you that night at the restaurant? Reynolds asked. Not just because you spoke Mandarin, because you had courage and integrity. Today, you proved I was right. As Jade looked around at the happy faces of her neighbors, she realized that success wasn't just about money or title. It was about using your power to help others. Sometimes the hardest business decisions were the most important ones. 2 years had passed since the Pine Grove Community Development Project began. It was now Reynolds Development's most famous project, featured in business magazines and urban planning case studies. The old buildings had been carefully restored. Small businesses were thriving in their renovated spaces. New affordable apartments stood next to moderately priced condos. The community center, once falling apart, was now a beautiful building where people gathered for classes, meetings, and celebrations. and Jade Wilson was now Vice President of Community Development at Reynolds Development. Her innovative approach to the Pine Grove project had changed the company's direction. Reynolds Development was still building luxury properties, but they were also becoming known for their community-focused projects. Today was a special day, the official opening of the Pine Grove Community Plaza. A crowd had gathered for the ceremony. Jade stood on the small stage, looking out at the faces of her neighbors, her co-workers, and her family. Her mother sat in the front row, beaming with pride. 2 years ago, Jade began her speech, many people thought this project was impossible. They said you couldn't make money and help a community at the same time. They were wrong. The crowd applauded. Pine Grove is proof that development doesn't have to destroy communities. It can strengthen them. It can create opportunities for everyone, not just the wealthy. As Jade continued her speech, she noticed a familiar face at the back of the crowd, Stephen Phillips. Her former boss from the Golden Crown restaurant was watching her with an unreadable expression. Jade hadn't seen him since the Beijing hotel deal meeting 2 years ago. After the ceremony, as people mingled and enjoyed the food from local restaurants, Phillips approached her. "Ms. Wilson," he said formally, "congratulations on your success." "Thank you, Mr. Phillips," Jade replied, surprised to see him there. "I've been following your career," he admitted. "This project is impressive." "What brings you to our opening?" Jade asked. Phillips hesitated. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have a moment?" Curious, Jade led him to a quiet corner of the plaza. Phillips seemed uncomfortable, nothing like the confident, dismissive man who had fired her 3 years ago. "I've been having some financial troubles," he finally said. "The investment group I joined didn't work out. I've lost most of my money." Jade didn't know what to say. She never expected Phillips to share something so personal with her. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said sincerely. "I'm looking for a new opportunity," Phillips continued. "And seeing what you've done here, I wondered if Reynolds Development might be hiring." Jade was shocked. Phillips was asking her for a job? The man who had fired her was now asking for her help. Life was full of surprises. "What kind of position are you looking for?" Jade asked carefully. "Anything, really. I have experience in management, customer service, investment." Jade thought. About it, she could easily say no. She could enjoy watching Philip struggle the way she had struggled after he fired her. It would be fair, wouldn't it? But as she looked around at the community plaza, at the positive change they had created, she knew that wasn't who she wanted to be. "We might have an opening in our community relations department," Jade said. "It's entry level, nothing like what you're used to, but it's a start." Relief washed over Phillips's face. "I would be grateful for any opportunity." "I'll need to talk to HR," Jade cautioned, "and I can't make any promises." "I understand," Phillips said. "And thank you." As Phillips walked away, Carter Reynolds joined Jade. "Was that Stephen Phillips?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," Jade said. "He's looking for a job." Reynolds raised his eyebrows. "With us? After how he treated you?" "People change," Jade said, "and sometimes they need a second chance." Reynolds looked at her with respect. "You're a better person than most, Jade Wilson." The next day, Jade met with the HR director about Phillips. They agreed to give him an interview for the community relations position. A week later, Phillips started his new job at Reynolds Development. It wasn't easy at first. Many employees knew the story of how Phillips had fired Jade years ago. They were cold to him, just as he had once been cold to Jade. But Jade made it clear that she had moved past it, and gradually, others did too. 3 months later, Jade invited Phillips to join a meeting about a new community project. The company was planning to develop an old warehouse district, and Jade wanted his input. "I've been thinking about the small businesses in that area," Phillips said during the meeting. "If we follow the Pine Grove model, we could create affordable spaces for them while still developing new properties." Jade was surprised. Phillips had clearly been paying attention to the company's new approach. "That's a good idea," she said. "Why don't you work with the planning team on that aspect of the project?" Over the next few months, Phillips threw himself into his work. He met with the small business owners in the warehouse district, learning about their needs and concerns. He researched affordable commercial space models. He even volunteered at community events on weekends. One evening, Jade found Phillips working late in his office. "You're still here?" she asked, echoing what Reynolds had once said to her. Phillips looked up. "Just finishing some research for the warehouse project." Jade sat down across from him. "You've been doing good work." "Thank you," Phillips said. "I'm trying to learn from my mistakes." "What do you mean?" Phillips sighed. "When I was managing the Golden Crown, I only cared about impressing wealthy customers. I didn't value the people who worked for me. I didn't see their potential." He looked directly at Jade. "I didn't see yours." "Why did you fire me?" Jade asked, the question that had been on her mind for years. "Because I was afraid," Phillips admitted. "I saw how impressed Reynolds was with you. I was afraid you'd outshine me, that you'd take opportunities I wanted for myself. And now I realize that success isn't about pushing others down. It's about lifting people up." He smiled slightly. "You taught me that, by giving me a chance, when you had every reason not to." Jade nodded, understanding. Sometimes we have to lose everything to learn what's really important. 6 months later, Phillips was promoted to Community Relations Manager. At his promotion party, he made a short speech. "3 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my career when I fired a talented young woman for speaking Mandarin on the job," he said, looking at Jade. "That woman went on to become one of the most innovative leaders in urban development. And instead of holding a grudge, she gave me a second chance when I needed it most." The room was quiet as everyone listened. "I've learned that true leadership isn't about power or control. It's about seeing potential in others and helping them grow. It's about building communities, not just buildings." He raised his glass. "Thank you, Jade, for the most important lesson of my career." As people applauded, Jade thought about how far they had all come. From a waitress answering a call in Mandarin to a vice president changing how urban development worked. From a boss who fired her out of fear to a colleague who learned from his mistakes. Life took strange turns sometimes, but if you stayed true to yourself and treated others with kindness, even the most difficult moments could lead to something good. 5 years had passed since Jade gave Stephen Phillips a second chance at Reynolds Development. Many things had changed during that time. Reynolds Development had grown into one of the most respected real estate companies in the country, known for balancing profit with community support. They had completed 15 community-focused projects in different cities, each one building on the lessons learned from Pine Grove. Jade had continued to rise in the company. Last year, when Carter Reynolds announced his retirement, he had surprised everyone by naming Jade as the new CEO of Reynolds Development. At 32, she was one of the youngest CEOs in the industry, and one of the few black women leading a major corporation. Today was Jade's first day as CEO. As she walked into the company's headquarters, she remembered her first day working at the Golden Crown restaurant 8 years ago. Back then, she had been a college student serving food to rich people who barely noticed her. Now she was leading a company with thousands of employees and projects worth billions of dollars. Jade's new office was on the top floor, with large windows overlooking the city. On one wall hung framed magazine covers featuring Jade and the company's innovative projects. On another wall was a simple black and white photo of the Golden Crown restaurant, a reminder of where her journey had begun. Emily Chen, who had been Reynolds' assistant and was now Jade's chief of staff, came in with a stack of papers. "Your schedule for today," Emily said, handing Jade a folder. "The executive team meeting is at 10 a.m. and the press conference announcing the new direction of the company is at 2 p.m. Jade nodded. "And the special meeting I requested?" "Scheduled for 4 p.m. in the main conference room. Everyone on the list has confirmed they'll be there." "Perfect. Thank you, Emily." After Emily left, Jade opened her laptop to review her notes for the executive team meeting. As CEO, her first major decision was to expand the company's community development approach to all their projects. Some of the executives were worried this would reduce profits, but Jade was determined to prove that business success and community support could go hand in hand. The morning passed quickly. The executive team meeting went well, with most members supporting Jade's vision for the company's future. The press conference was a success, with reporters asking thoughtful questions about the company's new direction. At 4 p.m., Jade walked into the main conference room. Inside were 20 people, not executives or investors, but ordinary employees from different departments and levels of the company. There was Maria from the cleaning staff, Robert from security, young interns, mid-level managers, and others. Some looked nervous, wondering why the new CEO had called them to a meeting. "Thank you all for coming," Jade began. "You might be wondering why I wanted to meet with you today." She walked around the table, making eye contact with each person. Each of you represents the heart of this company, the people who do the work every day, often without recognition. As CEO, I want to hear directly from you. What challenges do you face? What ideas do you have? How can we make this company better for everyone who works here? The room was silent for a moment. Then Maria, the older woman from the cleaning staff, spoke up. "The night shift has no good place to eat our lunch," she said hesitantly. "The cafeteria is closed and there's nowhere to sit." Jade nodded, making notes. "We'll fix that immediately. What else?" Gradually, more people began to speak. Robert mentioned security concerns in the parking garage. An intern talked about the need for better training programs. A mid-level manager suggested ways to improve communication between departments. Jade listened carefully to each person, asking questions and taking notes. No concern was too small, no idea dismissed. "This won't be the last meeting like this," Jade promised at the end. "I plan to meet regularly with employees at all levels. Your voices matter." As the meeting ended and people began to leave, Stephen Phillips, now the Director of Community Relations, approached Jade. "That was impressive," he said. "Most CEOs only listen to other executives. I learned a long time ago that the best ideas often come from people who aren't in the corner offices," Jade replied. Phillips nodded. "I have something for you," he said, handing her a small wrapped package. A CEO gift. Jade unwrapped it and found a beautiful nameplate for her desk. It read, "Jade Wilson, CEO," in elegant letters. "Thank you, Stephen, it's perfect." "I've been thinking about how far we've both come," Phillips said. "From a restaurant manager and a waitress to working together at the top of a major company. Life takes strange turns." "It does," Jade agreed, "though I think we both ended up where we were meant to be." Later that evening, after most employees had gone home, Jade was still in her office working on plans for their newest project. There was a knock at her door and Carter Reynolds walked in. Though retired, Reynolds still served as chairman of the board. His hair was more gray now, but he still had the same sharp eyes and confident manner. "Working late on your first day?" he asked with a smile. "Just finishing up," Jade said. Reynolds sat down across from her desk. "How does it feel, being CEO?" "Overwhelming," Jade admitted, "but in a good way." "I felt the same on my first day," Reynolds said. "But I knew from the beginning that you would sit in that chair someday." "Really? Even when I was just a waitress who answered a call in Mandarin?" "Especially then," Reynolds said. "You showed intelligence, skill, and dignity, even when serving drinks to people who didn't see your value. Those are the qualities of a true leader." Reynolds stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "When I hired you, I thought I was just getting someone who could help with our Asian projects," he continued. "I didn't realize I was finding my successor, someone who would make the company better than I ever could." "I wouldn't say that," Jade protested. "I would," Reynolds said firmly. "What you did with Pine Grove changed everything. You showed us a new way to think about development, one that helps communities instead of hurting them. That's your legacy, Jade. And now you have the chance to spread that vision even further." Jade joined him at the window. From this height, she could see the lights of Pine Grove, her old neighborhood. She could almost make out her mother's house, where it all began. "I have some news," Reynolds said after a moment. "The Urban Development Association has chosen you for their Visionary Leader Award. The ceremony is next month. Jade was surprised. It was one of the industry's highest honors, usually given to people with decades of experience. Are you sure? She asked. Very sure, Reynolds smiled. They specifically mentioned the Pine Grove model and how it's changing the industry. As Reynolds left, Jade stayed by the window, thinking about her journey. From a college student working as a waitress to the CEO of a major company. From answering a phone call in Mandarin to creating new models of urban development that helped thousands of people. The path hadn't been easy. She had faced discrimination, been fired unfairly, and had to fight for her ideas to be heard. But each challenge had made her stronger, more determined to succeed not just for herself but for her community. Jade thought about all the people who had helped her along the way. Her mother who had supported her dreams, Reynolds who had seen her potential, even Phillips who had taught her the power of forgiveness and second chances. And she thought about all the people she could help now, the employees who trusted her leadership, the communities that would benefit from her vision, the young people who might see her story and believe that their dreams were possible too. Jade Wilson, once a waitress who answered a call in Mandarin, was now a CEO changing how business worked. And this was just the beginning.